South Koreans have a paycheck system that builds wealth automatically, starting from the day they get their first job. Americans do the exact opposite, and that's why 78% are living paycheck to paycheck despite making more money.
I'm going to show you exactly what happens to a paycheck in Seoul versus a paycheck in New York. And once you see the difference, you'll understand why one culture builds millionaires and the other creates permanent anxiety.
Let me introduce you to Min-Jun, a 28-year-old marketing professional in Seoul making about $45,000 a year, and Sarah, also 28, doing the same job in New York making $52,000 annually. Both get paid on the same day of the month. Both have rent, food, and transportation costs. But what happens in the next 24 hours after that paycheck hits is completely different. When Min-Jun's paycheck arrives, the first thing that happens is automatic, before he even sees the money. 30% is immediately transferred to 3 separate accounts he set up on his first day of work. 10% goes to something Koreans call Miljagam, future fund, which he will never touch until he's 40. 10% goes to his emergency savings that only gets used for true crises like job loss or medical emergencies.
The final 10% goes to what they call Giwaejagam opportunity fund, saved specifically for investments or business opportunities. This entire 30% allocation happens automatically, so there's no willpower required and no decision fatigue.
Meanwhile, Sarah's entire paycheck lands in her checking account, and she feels rich for exactly 4 hours. She tells herself she'll save whatever's left at the end of the month, which is the financial kiss of death. Here's what most Americans don't realize. Saving what's left guarantees there will be nothing left, because spending expands to fill whatever money is visible in your checking account. After Min-Jun's automatic 30% is removed, he's left with 70% of his paycheck for everything else. But here's the cultural difference that changes everything. He doesn't see that 30% as his money anymore.
In Korean financial culture, money that's been allocated is psychologically dead. It doesn't exist for spending purposes. This isn't willpower, it's a cultural money identity that gets taught from childhood.
Sarah, on the other hand, sees her full paycheck as available money, which triggers what psychologists call wealth illusion. She feels wealthier than she actually is, which causes her brain to approve purchases she can't afford.
Now let's talk about what happens next with Min-Jun's remaining 70%. 30% of his original paycheck immediately goes to fixed costs: rent, utilities, phone, internet, insurance.
Another 20% is allocated to what Koreans call sengwordbi, daily living money for food, transportation, and necessities. That leaves him with 20% for everything else: entertainment, dining out, hobbies, discretionary spending. Notice what just happened. Min-Jun's spending categories are predetermined before he spends a single dollar. Sarah's money has no structure, no boundaries, no predetermined limits. It's complete financial chaos disguised as freedom. Here's where the Korean system reveals its genius. Social pressure works in favor of saving, not against it. If Min-Jun's friends discover he's not saving 30% of his income, he loses social respect immediately.
In America, the social pressure is reversed. If Sarah's friends find out she's saving too much, they call her cheap or antisocial. American culture celebrates visible consumption. Korean culture celebrates invisible wealth accumulation. Let's fast forward 5 years and see where this paycheck philosophy leads both of them. Min-Jun, making $45K annually with 30% automatic savings, has built $67,500 in his 3 accounts. His future fund has $22,500, his emergency fund has $22,500, and his opportunity fund has $22,500. He's never felt deprived, never felt like he was sacrificing, because the system was automatic from day one. Sarah, making $52K annually and saving what's left, has $3,200 in savings after 5 years. She kept telling herself she'd start saving seriously next month for 60 months straight. The difference isn't intelligence, discipline, or income. It's the paycheck system they're operating within. Min-Jun's system makes saving the default. Sarah's system makes spending the default. Now here's the part that most people miss. The Korean system isn't about deprivation or living like a monk. Min-Jun still goes out with friends, still buys things he enjoys, still lives a full life within his 20% discretionary budget. The constraint actually creates more enjoyment because there's no guilt, no anxiety, no wondering if he can afford something. If it fits in the 20%, he buys it guilt-free. If it doesn't, he doesn't torture himself with the decision.
Sarah, with complete freedom and no structure, experiences constant financial anxiety and decision fatigue. Every purchase requires a negotiation with herself about whether she can afford it, and she usually lies. Let's talk about the second major difference, how each culture handles windfalls like bonuses or tax refunds. When Min-Jun gets his annual bonus, 50% goes directly into his opportunity fund before he touches it. The other 50% gets split, half for immediate enjoyment, guilt-free spending, half for upgrading his quality of life. The system is predetermined, so there's no temptation to blow the entire bonus on something impulsive. When Sarah gets a bonus, she tells herself she'll be responsible, but there's no system governing what happens next. 90% of it disappears within 6 weeks on purchases she can't even remember making.
Here's the psychological trap Americans fall into. They treat windfalls as free money that doesn't count. But that free money could have been the deposit on their financial future. Instead, it became a forgotten shopping spree. The third major difference is how each culture handles raises and promotions. When Min-Jun gets a 10% raise, his automatic savings rate increases proportionally. He saves 30% of the new amount. His lifestyle improves with the remaining 70%, but his future self gets the same protection as before.
This is how Koreans avoid lifestyle inflation. The savings increase locks in before lifestyle desires take over. When Sarah gets a 10% raise, 100% of it goes to lifestyle inflation within 3 months. New apartment, new car payment, new subscription services, her expenses rise faster than her income. 5 years later, she's making 30% more money but somehow feels more broke than when she started. Because she never captured the raises for her future, she spent every dollar of increased income immediately.
Now let's address what you're probably thinking. But Korea has a different culture. This won't work in America. Culture doesn't change math. Automatic allocation works in any country because it's based on human psychology, not nationality.
The reason it works in Korea is because it's taught as default behavior, not as a special savings challenge. You can install the same system in America by making one decision today that governs all future paychecks. Here's exactly how to implement the Korean paycheck system starting with your next paycheck. Step 1. Open 3 separate savings accounts at a different bank from your checking account.
Name them Future Fund, Emergency Fund, and Opportunity Fund. The names matter because they create psychological boundaries. Different bank is crucial because it adds friction to accessing the money impulsively.
Step 2. Set up automatic transfers for the day after your paycheck hits, not a week later, not when you remember. The automation has to happen before you see the money, or your brain will sabotage the system.
30% feels impossible right now. Start with 20% and increase 2% every time you get a raise. The Korean system isn't about perfection from day one, it's about installing the architecture that compounds over decades.
Step 3. Treat the money in those accounts as if it doesn't exist for spending purposes. This is the hardest part for Americans because we're culturally trained to see all our money as ours to spend.
But here's the truth. That money is yours, it's just allocated to future you instead of present you. Future you is depending on present you to make this decision, because future you can't go back in time and fix it.
Let's talk about the fourth major difference: how each culture handles debt and credit cards. In South Korea, credit card debt is seen as a personal failure and a family embarrassment.
Min-Jun uses credit cards for points and convenience, but pays them off completely every single month. Carrying a balance isn't even considered an option. It's culturally unacceptable and psychologically devastating. Sarah has $8,400 in credit card debt that she's been managing for 3 years by making minimum payments. American culture has normalized consumer debt to the point where it's expected, even celebrated as building credit.
Here's what that cultural difference costs in real dollars. Sarah pays 1,680 dam per year in interest alone. That's 1,680 that could have been invested, saved, or enjoyed. Instead, it's pure profit for credit card companies.
The fifth difference is how each culture thinks about financial education and money conversations. Korean families discuss money openly, teach paycheck allocation to teenagers, and normalize financial transparency. Min-Jun learned this 30% system from his parents, who learned it from their parents. It's generational financial wisdom. By age 16, he already understood that paychecks get divided before spending, not after. Sarah's family never talked about money except to stress about bills or complain about being broke. She entered adulthood with zero financial framework and had to learn everything through expensive mistakes. American culture treats money as taboo, shameful, or private, which guarantees each generation repeats the same mistakes. You can break this cycle by implementing the Korean system and teaching it to anyone who will listen.
Let's address the biggest objection. I don't make enough money to save 30% of my paycheck. Min-Jun makes $45,000, which is below the median US income. This isn't about how much you make.
The system works at any income level because it's about allocation percentages, not absolute dollar amounts. Someone making $30,000 saving 20% will build more wealth than someone making $80,000 saving nothing. Here's the math that changes everything. $30,000, 20%, 10 years, $60,000 in savings. That's a down payment on a house, a business investment, or a complete career transition built from not enough money.
The real problem isn't your income, it's that you're spending 100% of whatever you make. The Korean system forces you to live on less than you earn, which is the only mathematical path to wealth.
Now let's look at where Min-Jun and Sarah are at age 40, assuming they continue their current systems. Min-Jun has accumulated $270,000 across his 3 funds, not including investment returns.
His future fund has $90,000, emergency fund has $90,000, and opportunity fund has $90,000. He's financially unbreakable. Job loss doesn't scare him, opportunities don't pass him by, and retirement is guaranteed.
Sarah has $12,000 in savings, $15,000 in credit card debt, and a constant low-level anxiety about money. She makes more money than Min-Jun but has less wealth because her paycheck system was designed for spending, not building.
The tragedy is that Sarah worked just as hard, sacrificed just as much, and deserved wealth just as much as Min-Jun. But the system she was operating within made wealth accumulation nearly impossible, even with good intention.
Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about Korean superiority or American failure. It's about recognizing that cultural money systems produce predictable results, and you can choose which system to operate within.
Starting today, you can adopt the Korean paycheck allocation system regardless of where you live or what you currently make. Open those 3 accounts, set up automatic transfers, and let the system do what willpower never could. 10 years from now, you'll either have built substantial wealth through automatic allocation, or you'll still be planning to start saving next month. The difference between those two futures is one decision you make in the next 24 hours.
Your paycheck is arriving soon. Decide right now whether it's going to build your future or just disappear into another month of forgettable spending. The Korean system works because it removes the decision from every paycheck and makes it once, right now, forever.